Teeming. The street was teeming with tourists. Botched. This is botched work. Probe. Probe is useful in measuring current. Pathetic. She looked very pathetic. Flaws. Everything has flaws. Autopsies. Autopsies determine the cause of death. Hazardous. Hazardous. Smoking is hazardous to health. Gastrointestinal. The image shows the gastrointestinal tract. Cardiovascular. He is suffering from a cardiovascular disease. Congested. The market is congested with people. Recipe. These are the ingredients according to the recipe. Precaution. She wears seat belts as a precaution. Rain. She grabs the rain. Rampant. Her eating habit is rampant. Devaluation. Devaluation of share market has happened. Inflationary. Petrol prices show inflationary rise. Lentils. Lentils are about to get cooked. Naive. The children are naive. Trajectory. Trajectory of the rocket is seen in the sky. Staggered. She staggered while walking. Spared. The judge spared him from punishment. Erodes. Water currents erode the soil. Mandated. Traffic rules are mandated for everyone. Deadline. She is close to the deadline. Assertions. The lawyer is presenting his assertions. Charade. Their friendship is a charade. Indignation. People were filled with indignation. Curtailing. The bank interest charges a curtailing. Ineptitude. Her social ineptitude. Shenanigans. Shenanigans were done between them. Crudely. They responded crudely. Thwarted. She thwarted him from cooking.
For millions in our teeming cities, clean air and water have become luxuries. What is even more alarming is that environmental pollution is quite literally having a deadly impact on people's health. Mystery shrouds the deaths of 18 people, mostly children, who died in Karachi's Kiamari area last month. Experts are of the view that toxic emissions from industrial units in the area caused the deaths, but thanks to a botched probe by the authorities, many questions about the tragedy remain unanswered. Taking notice of this pathetic state of affairs, the Sindh High Court on Tuesday ordered registration of FIRs of the case as well as a thorough investigation into the incident. Reportedly, 15 deaths occurred in the same area in 2020 as well. Regarding flaws in the initial probe, officials are said to have failed to carry out detailed autopsies of the victims, while SEPA, Sindh's environment watchdog, apparently collected samples from factories allegedly responsible for the toxic emissions after the units were sealed. In a related development, SEPA recently found that several industries in Kiamari were releasing hazardous emissions. The Kiamari tragedy highlights two major deadly environmental hazards in Karachi: toxic air and industrial units functioning in or near residential areas. Bad air, as medical experts have pointed out, is responsible for causing cancer and gastrointestinal, cardiovascular and kidney diseases, while due to the non-implementation of zoning laws, industrial units and congested, often poor, residential localities have been merged, creating a recipe for disaster. Industrial zones, particularly where units deal with hazardous material, should be located far from residential areas. Unfortunately, The Sindh authorities have failed to enforce this basic safety precaution, and at present there seems to be no check on factories and industrial units operating in populated areas. For the sake of the people's health, action needs to be taken in this regard, while the Sindh administration can definitely do more to rein in rampant air pollution. Published in Dawn, February 9, 2023. It appears that the PDM government is indulging in some ill-advised legal gymnastics as it attempts to delay elections for the Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa assemblies till after their constitutionally mandated deadline expires. After the KP and Punjab governors earlier agreed that holding provincial elections before a general election was unaffordable, and that all elections should instead be held together later in the year, PMLN leaders Khawaja Saad Rafiq, Malik Ahmad Khan and Atul Attara have made very similar assertions. Malik Ahmed Khan, in fact, has gone so far as to claim that the Constitution does not say anything about holding elections within 90 days, even though the timeline appears to be laid out quite explicitly in Article 224(2). In the same vein, the KP and Punjab police chiefs have now cited resurgent terrorism as an excuse for the Election Commission of Pakistan to put off the polls for another 4 to 5 months. They have both also made similar claims regarding not having enough personnel to ensure the security of the upcoming polls. It would be extremely unfortunate if the ECP plays along with this little charade. As President Arif Alvi reminded the Commission on Wednesday, holding elections under the guidelines set in the Constitution is the primary and essential duty of the ECP. It is ultimately the Commission which will be held responsible for any violation of the Constitution if it fails to discharge its functions and duties accordingly. The law is quite clear that elections must be held within 90 days in case of the early dissolution of the national or provincial assemblies, and those in power should stop finding creative excuses not to obey. There had rightfully been much anger and indignation last year when the PTI attempted to railroad the Constitution to announce an early election. The PDM, too, must not be allowed to railroad it to do the opposite. The democratic process cannot be suspended. It is not up to the two governors or even the federal government to decide on the affordability of elections. Indeed, they should ensure the necessary funding for the ECP even if it means curtailing expenditures in other areas. Likewise, the threat of terrorist attacks cannot be made a reason to delay polls. Keeping the people safe is the responsibility of our law enforcement agencies and the military. Their ineptitude and failures have no bearing on the responsibilities assigned by the Constitution to the ECP. The PDM must stop trying to manufacture bad precedents that future governments may also use to unlawfully extend their rule. The government should stop attempting to hijack the electoral process with its shenanigans, assist the ECP in its preparations and ensure that the Commission has whatever resources it needs. Democracy should not be so crudely thwarted. Published in Dawn, February 9, 2023.